right, Midwest region operators and restaurant leaders, thanks for joining us for this fifth session of PETRO, where we're pursuing excellence together in restaurant operations. I'm here in St. Louis, Missouri, where it's raining today, but nonetheless, we're excited to be at Eric Venting's restaurant, and we're joined by Brittany and Daniel, two of the leaders here at Sunset Hills Freestanding Restaurant. And we're going to focus on cleanliness and organization today. So thanks for joining us, Eric. Thanks for hosting us.
Yeah.
All right, so Eric, I'd love to just start with why. Tell us why cleanliness is important to you and why you want to keep it top of mind here at your restaurant.
Sure. Yeah. So it's one of the hardest things to do in the restaurant, as we know, especially as so busy as we are with the guests, and also the number of team members that we have working in the restaurant every single day. So I have a military background, so cleanliness was always kind of a part of the experience in the military. You had to fold your socks a certain way and shine up your sink, and so I think that just kind of carried over to my life, my personal life, and then anything that I've done professionally as well. So my wife gets annoyed sometimes by my heightened level of cleanliness, but it is just a core thing that's always kind of been important to me. And then as Chick-fil-A just really emphasized the importance as we've grown to around food safety. We knew this was a key tenet of food safety, and it's just a big opportunity for us as we really started to dig into food safety, and we knew it was just too much of a task for one or two people to do. And it's one thing for me to say it's important, but how does that get transmitted down all the way to the individual team members? So I've been an operator 11 years. We grand opened this restaurant about 10 and a half years ago. And as we've continued to grow, we've realized that if we don't take care of things on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, then things became projects. And nobody likes doing projects, and having to come on a Sunday or early in the morning or after hours to take care of something or maintain something that we just need to really be doing every day, that kind of helped us figure out some daily disciplines. And then another key thing that we found out when we did a team member survey through Chick-fil-A in 2021 is there was a lot of our junior leaders that needed more information about how they can grow within our team. And through that hard work and the hard work that Daniel and Brittany have done, we just realized, like, hey, if we can divide up our entire restaurant and all of our equipment and our facility and outside and take it all the way down to like our first level leaders and give them true responsibility of an area, that has been by far the most effective thing that we have done to maintain a level of cleanliness and personal ownership. And the byproducts of that is just the pride that the team feels in where they work. Because things are organized, they feel like they're set up for success and have the resources that they need, but also they know that they need to maintain a clean environment for the rest of their team and just continue to ensure that maintains throughout the days and weeks. So Stryker, or we call Daniel Stryker a lot, so you may hear him refer to a couple things here during the video. And Brittany, maybe you guys can talk about why you think has been important here as well.
Yeah, I think as the brand continues to grow, people trust us more, and so like that becomes a huge part of it. It was like people expect to come into a clean restaurant and expect to be served good, safe food, and cleanliness is a huge part of that.
I want to touch bases on what Daniel said. It conveys a good first impression, and it shows that we care about the people who choose to eat here at Chick-fil-A. So that's why cleanliness is important to me.
That's good. All right, so Eric and team, you've talked about why it's important to you. Now I'd love to know, like, how do you guys make it happen? A restaurant will not just clean itself, although that'd be really nice if it would, but how do you guys make cleanliness come alive and happen consistently?
Right, so it's all about disciplines, daily, weekly, some monthly, and I just always have been a firm believer on checklists. Again, military background, to me, nothing communicates an expectation more than a checklist. Nothing communicates accountability more than somebody signing off or putting their initials or name on something. Even the best of the best, special forces operators, pilots that have flown 1,000 missions, every time before they do a mission, they still refer to their checklist. They don't do things from memory. They still have a tool to help them do the daily discipline things that they need to do every single time, so then they can react and use their brain power, if you will, for those type of things. So there's plenty of those things to do in the restaurant every day. So the things that just need to happen, let's just make sure it's recorded in some kind of system. So, so the how is that's always been kind of the foundation, for me. And then Daniel here, our food safety director, just kind of giving that to him, like, hey, we need checklists. What are this checklist we're going to have? How do we make sure we're accomplishing our goals with the checklist? And then he's kind of helped develop some of the tools that we have.
Yeah, so we developed area responsibility program. So all of our lower level leaders own a specific area of our restaurant. They have a JOLT checklist that's due weekly. Brittany or myself will check it. We use a lot of pictures on JOLT for accountability to make sure. And it's changed a lot over the years. There's times where you've done something and put something on the list and realize pretty quickly that it needs to be done more than once a week. Or maybe we don't need to do this every week. And then Brittany has really taken a lot of ownership and working closely with our leaders.
So with their responsibility is, again, I go in and I adjust it as needed. Like Daniel said, sometimes you might not need to focus on something as often as other things. So my responsibility is to go in there and figure out what needs to be adjusted, how to adjust it, and who to adjust it to. Sometimes you have our lower level leaders, excuse me, who doesn't work as much as others. So you don't want to give them something that's too much because they may maybe work 2 or 3 days a week. So again, even that part, just not giving someone too much to do with the schedule that they might have. Also, on our daily list, we do things by day, cleaning. We have a bunch of sauce bins, right? So we've numbered our sauce bins throughout the week for 7 days. Sauce bins have a 1, a 2, a 3, and so forth. And on Monday, we clean all the ones. On Tuesdays, we clean all the 2 sauce bins. Things like that. In a dining room, some days we might clean the tables and chairs in one section of the dining room, and then another section another day. And it just repeats itself over and over and over.
So if I could summarize, it's important. It's so important, we're not going to leave it up to chance. We're going to have checklists, systems in place. We're going to delegate ownership, and then we're going to follow that up with accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So my question, if that's an accurate summary, talk to us about the days where, hey, today is this section of the dining room should be clean. Things happen. 3 people were sick. 2 buses showed up. When we normally would have done that cleaning, whatever it is. How do you still the dining room that section needs to be clean?
Yes.
How do you make sure that happens?
Well, just first of all, we know that these systems are dynamic, so we can't. The worst thing we could ever do is say we have a system or it's done. We continually evaluate the system that we have, the checklist that we have. Brittany alluded to it. There's been many times something's on a weekly checklist, and it's like this needs to be done every day between 2 to 4. So it's going to be on that afternoon checklist. So, and then these guys can speak to how we adjust. Like, oh, we were busier today than we thought. We had some call-offs. So what do we do now, to your point, to figure out we're behind, we're not going to get this done?
Yeah, I think one of the big advantages of having these systems that we repeat and are constantly evaluating is that things don't become a project. So if we do fall a little behind, it doesn't take us a whole lot to get caught back up. Our team has really enjoyed this, and I think that's a big part of it too. Is like they know this stuff is going to happen too, and a lot of our team leaders and even some of our team members know, like, okay, we just got to do it. Like it is what it is tonight. Right?
I think communication. We are really, really big on communication. So, in the sense of how you said it, if we had 2 buses, it was busy, we couldn't clean this portion of the dining room. We try to communicate with the morning team. Sometimes it's a bit slower in the mornings. So if it didn't get done completely that night, we could communicate with the opening team and say, hey, we didn't get a chance to get all of this done. Could you guys check it or complete it? That way we can keep our rotation
Okay.
in good standards and focus on the next area the following night.
Okay. That's good. All right, Eric. I have a thought. I believe God clearly wired us all differently. We don't all share the same gifts.
Thank goodness.
Yes, that is a good thing. Thank you, God, for doing it that way.
Yeah.
So we can complement each other and work together. But one of the things I think, and Brittany and I think we share a few things in common. This is one of them. We see dirt. Not everybody sees it. Some people would look at something and go, that's clean. Others might go, actually, it's not. Let me show you why. So how do you leverage the folks on your team that do see dirt and are willing to get dirty, as we were talking earlier, to see it? Because it matters to the guests. We've already established that. How do you leverage everybody's strengths? Those that see dirt, maybe some of those who don't.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, those in the restaurant, we have to recognize the realities of that every day. We know there's some people that are uniquely wired and gifted through certain things. But I'll also say there has to be a certain level of expectation. My kids can tell me all day that, hey, my room's cozy because it's disorganized. No. There's a certain level of standard that you just have to be okay living in our house. You got to keep your room a certain way, period. So there's a little bit of that, which is why we've seen so much traction and just a lot of value in pushing this down to our first line leaders, because then we can truly evaluate them and help them and coach them and guide them. And you need to have a critical eye everywhere, but it's really hard to do that. But if we can tell you, you need to have a critical eye in this very specific area or with this equipment, and then we can give you feedback to say, if you want to be a manager here, if you want to have more responsibility here, then you need to do a better job of doing that. So now, every time I would ask Brittany, how was your weekend? She would have always talked to me about I cleaned my house yesterday. My kids helped me clean the house.
So that's an indication.
It's an indication that I think she's going to be really good at doing this for us, and then there's just got to be a lot of humility too. There's been many times through the years that Daniel has said, Eric, I think this is good. Can you come back here and look at this? So just acknowledging the strengths and weaknesses of people on the team and knowing I think this is okay, but I'm going to ask somebody else who may see it differently than me to breathe into this or get some
Especially when you
feedback.
see something every day, it's easy for you to kind of lose focus of what it should look like.
What it should
Sometimes
look like.
having that accountability is super helpful. That's one of the things Brittany's really, really good about, is taking some of our lower level leaders and walking over to their area and just saying, hey, have you looked at this? When was the last time this got done? Are you using the correct chemical and stuff? And we've had a lot of issues with that. So.
It's good.
I think, like you said, chemicals, that has been really important. At one point, we had a lot of people wanting to use sanitizer for everything. And I'm just no.
Not going to do that.
It's not cleaning. We need to get it clean. One thing that I have done is on our list, I've labeled each list item that needs to be clean with what chemical you should be using to clean or to sanitize. So that has also helped a lot with getting that lemonade pulp off that lemonade machine and all the lemonade pulp on the wall behind the lemonade machine because it's heavy to pour in there. I get dirty. I get on my hands and knees and I'm looking under Coke towers, I'm looking in drains, I'm looking under the ice machines. I was sticking my hand in a drain the other day because there was lemonade pulp in there. So I find satisfaction in cleaning. So it's one thing that I do not mind doing. So
That's so good.
I think a lot of these things too, if you're going to hold somebody accountable to something, you have to know, if they're not meeting the standard, is it because they don't know how to,
Yeah.
or they don't want to? If they don't know how to, that is on us. So we use Pathway. Brittany has done a great job of demonstrating and showing, and now even like she
Making
mentioned,
videos.
making videos. We make our own
Yes.
videos of how to do something, so we can distribute that. We have recurring training where people have to, check off on stuff. So then it helps us to know they know how to, because we've given the resources. If they don't want to, that's a different
That's a
conversation.
different conversation.
So like the accountability piece is really kind of figuring out those two parts.
That's great. All right, so Brittany and Daniel, you both have talked about the systems that you all have in place and how critical those are. You've also talked about systems are dynamic and you have to continually refresh or upgrade your systems to make sure they're serving your needs. Talk to us, maybe give us a couple of examples of what that looks like, of keeping your systems for cleanliness fresh and relevant.
So we've talked a lot from kind of the very beginning of me being a director that the system has to work for us. We don't work for the system. So we've done a lot of tweaking over the years of, okay, do we need to divide an area into 2 areas or 3 areas, or add a person to this area? File cabinets are too big a project for one person to handle. We need 2 or 3 people on that. And the needs of the business have changed over the years, so just not being afraid to change things and tweak things and try new things and just kind of see what works.
That's good.
And not only have we given our lower level leaders those area responsibilities, we've also combined the trainer with them to give trainers more responsibility and give them the opportunity to grow in operations as well. So each leader is paired with a trainer in their area of responsibility, so that we can again give those trainers the opportunity to grow and to take on more responsibility and to show that they want to grow as well.
That's good. Midwest Region operators and restaurant leaders, thanks again for joining us. We're here in Topeka, Kansas on our 5th segment of PETRO, where we're pursuing excellence together in restaurant operations. And again, we're here in Topeka, and Justin Lamison, the operator here, is kind enough to host us along with his leaders. And we're going to be talking today about restaurant cleanliness and organization. So thanks for joining us. Justin, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So Justin, again, we're here talking about restaurant cleanliness and organization, and I'd love to just start with why. Like, why is having a clean restaurant important to you?
Sure. So having a clean restaurant, it's a really big deal to the customer. Back in the old days, some of you guys probably remember we talked about operational excellence, and cleanliness was one of those 4 pillars. And the way I think about it is cleanliness is kind of one of those pay-to-play values where it's got to be right every time. So if you have fast service, friendly team, great food, and a customer goes to use the restroom, or they can't find and it's dirty, or they can't find a clean place to sit or whatever, that kind of ruins the experience. So it's something that we just have to get right every time as much as we can. Here in Topeka, we talk a lot about being Topeka's most loved restaurant on both sides of the counter. And so, those moms with kids, they need to be able to trust that they're going to have a clean place to sit, a clean restroom, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of it is just about building and maintaining trust with our guests.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, Justin, thank you for sharing why cleanliness is important to you. I'd love to transition to Kiara. And Kiara is largely responsible for how you guys make sure the restaurant stays clean. So Kiara, share with us how you guys do that here.
Well, we utilize Jolt a lot. Everything is actually on Jolt, just so we have a specific place to store it. We found out that it was actually easier. I moved everything from, it's still on Jolt, but copied it to paper, divided it by day part, so that way I could make sure that things were getting done equally and not it's one manager, you're cleaning everything today. We have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then anything that doesn't happen on those days is communicated to whoever leads shift Friday or Saturday, typically me, to make sure that it gets hit those days, and then it just rolls to the next week to make sure that we are specifically touching and nothing is just getting skipped regularly. Something else that's also helpful is clear forms of communication. We have certain people who own certain parts of the business. I am usually an opener. I run the mornings, and if I notice something that didn't quite go as it should have at close, then I will contact Fiji, our PM director. Danny is one of our PM managers, and also Emily and whoever else might have closed. We go directly to them. We have GroupMe. Also, something that helps is having a clear person own our biggest area of hospitality, the dining room, Joseph. Joseph does great. Sometimes even during a rush it can get a little messy, but obviously whoever's leading the shift, I've taught them, whether it's me or one of my managers, to walk out here, you just kind of observe, but also go directly to Joseph and ask him, hey, would you like some more assistance out here? You don't say, the floor looks really dirty, but you can be like, would you like some assistance out here? And you just move stuff around to make people go where they're supposed to during the shift, to make sure, one, he feels assisted, but also that we're giving the customers the best experience. So that way they don't walk into a mess, no matter how busy we are.
That's good. Kira, a few thoughts. Well, like just in hearing you say that, like here's some things I'm hearing, like systems, Jolt, group me, like you got specific systems in place. You've got accountability, people that own things. You know, Joseph is responsible for the dining room largely. Fiji's responsible for the evening. You've dedicated clear ownership for things. What I love about that too is you also acknowledge like it just gets busy. Sometimes, you know, things happen. We get buses in, whatever happens, the floor's not as clean as maybe anyone would like for it to be. So I hear you talking about you gotta kind of have to, as a leader, you gotta pull yourself up out of like a position or heads down in the business, which is very important, and able to get out and actually see that the dining room needs a little extra help. Is that kind of what?
Yes, but also making sure, well, we're staffed enough that way he does have assistance, but obviously him trying to do a restroom check during busy hours, I could be like, hey, I can send a woman to do that for you. It's just easier to get that done. And he's usually good about communicating with me as well, just finding me, so.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's how we get that done.
Thank you. All right, Fiji, as we were talking, you shared something that I think would be important for everybody to hear. And you were acknowledging, you know, the reality that the things are important. Quick service, hot, fresh food, those things are real important. But you also talked about how critical and how important it is to be able to pull up and see the entire picture. Would you mind sharing with your peers around the Midwest region, like how you think about that and maybe how you do that?
Absolutely. So one way that I think about it that I like to develop our leaders in the store is to get in the mindset of the Chick-fil-A restaurant is your home. And every guest that comes in is someone you're inviting into your home. So that being said, you really want to present a clean atmosphere, somewhere that they feel welcomed and comfortable in, that they want to sit down and, you know, stay for a little bit. So teaching everyone to see that bigger picture, we're more aware of the state of our store, how clean it is, and what needs to be done to get it to, you know, meeting our guest expectations.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, Joseph. So I understand your kind of area of responsibility is largely the dining room, making sure it's clean, making sure that customers have what they need. Tell us a little bit about why you're passionate about that, and then give us a few examples of how you actually do that.
Right. Okay. Well, when I was promoted to dining room lead, it was fun, just knowing that this would be a challenge, and it's like my own little kingdom. You have people are sent out here, and you can delegate to them, and then just always trying to keep in the forefront that mentality that if you're not, if you're seeing things that need to be done or whatever, and you're not the one doing them, like who else is going to do them? It's just always keeping yourself responsible and accountable for making sure that your lists are complete and the restaurant is staying pristine. And then, yeah, it's always nice just looking at how you're doing and getting reflections based on whether it's CEMs or even just on Google Maps, like looking at reviews. And it's fun to see customers saying, hey, like, I'm impressed they have mouthwash in the bathrooms, or, you know, just those little things that help spread joy to people and make them want to come back again. So
That's fantastic. Thank you.
yes, sir.
All right, operators, if there's any words of encouragement or just things that I could pass on, I think one of the things when it comes to cleanliness is just how are you leading by example, and what are your daily routines? I know for me, every time I come to the restaurant, sometimes, you know, you may be in a rush and in a hurry, and there's certain things you want to get done that day. And it could be easy just quickly park and come in the back door. I always will drive through our lot just to have a critical eye look at everything, the landscaping, the parking lot, the flagpole, the flag, you know, just making sure everything looks the way it needs to. And then also everybody watches all that we do. So if we're going to pass by a piece of trash or not pick something up, the team is going to notice that. So, and again, I know for me, one of the things I feel like the best way I can serve the team is just helping them keep things clean. So if I know I'm going to wash my hands or make a trip to the back of the restaurant anyways, why wouldn't I grab some cardboard, pick up some trash, especially after busy peak periods after lunch? I'm probably the first one who is picking up stuff off the floor. It's just going to happen. You don't need a broom or a dustpan. Well, oftentimes you can just pick up the waffle fry, the straw, the sauce, whatever's on the floor, pick it up, throw it away, wash your hands. And the team notices that, and then they start to model those things as well. And I think that small level of cleanliness just transfers to some of the larger projects. So just like I think the daily routines, leading by example, and then the last thing is just really trust your leaders to empower them. They're going to come up with better systems than we are because they live this every day. They know what the team is capable of and what's realistic expectations. And as Daniel and Brittany kind of talked about, there's been a lot of work in terms of how we divide the restaurant, divide our equipment, give responsibilities to people, and the trust that I've been able to give them, and they have come up with these great systems that we have. It's definitely too hard for all of us to do that on our own. But it's always a journey. We may be clean today and dirty tomorrow, so just encourage you to kind of start where you are and lean forward. And if anything I can do to help or our team can do to help, don't ever hesitate to reach out to us.
All right, so just wanted to share a few more things about our mentality and approach to keeping the restaurant clean and a refreshingly clean environment for our guests. And I think people need to be reminded more than instructed. So I don't think any of this is new for anybody, but maybe there's something in here that will, jog your memory or something and make you think, oh, that's a good idea. So the first thing is just dedicated leadership. Again, just a reminder. So just having somebody who is responsible for each of the key areas. And something that might be a little bit unique for us is that we, years ago, Tim Tasopoulos talked about having 2 tracks for leadership in the restaurant. And one of the things that we've learned over the years is some people who are great at tasks are not necessarily great people leaders. And so we've kind of created certain areas, like you met Joseph is our dining room leader. We've also created a couple other areas, like we have a facilities and maintenance role that we've had somebody in that role for about 4 years who stays up on all of our preventative maintenance and stuff like that, helps clean the vents, things like that, just stuff that is outside of the day-to-day operations that's easy to miss. We've got somebody responsible for all of our raw operations, so making sure the chicken is rotated properly, thaw cabinets are clean, stuff like that. So those tracks create a way for people to advance a little bit in responsibility, make a little bit more money, and be more engaged in the team. And in the process of the business without necessarily having to be somebody who supervises a group of employees or is doing employee reviews and that kind of thing. Another thing to think about is just your communication schedule. We have multiple people looking at CEMs, RQAs, ROEs, all that kind of stuff on a regular basis and sharing that feedback with the team. We've got the daily shift reports at the end of morning and evening shifts. And then a weekly email that goes out to the whole team. We use GroupMe. I know a lot of folks use Slack and prefer that, but just something for real-time communication to the team. And pretty much anything that goes on GroupMe, we print and paste in the restaurant because we've got a lot of people who might not see it, whether they're a homeschooler who has a flip phone or just somebody who's not able to keep up with all the notifications. So just multiple channels of communication to make sure the right people hear what they need to hear when they need to hear it. Almost kind of lean thinking, but for communication. That's something that we're trying to continue to develop. And then technology and vendors. So what are the ways that we can make the job easy for our people to do? So over the years, something that we think about and talk about is what hurdles and obstacles can we get out of the way of our team to make it easier for them to focus on the guest. And again, a lot of you guys probably already have some of these things, but things like floor scrubbers, dining room compactors. I know a lot of guys have people come in and scrub the floor at night for them so their team can get out a little bit sooner and focus on customer service right up until close. So we've got a lot of stuff like that. And then vendors too. What can you outsource so that you know it is going to get done? So we've got somebody come in and pressure wash. Every 2 or 3 weeks, they pressure wash all of the concrete outside. And then we've got somebody who comes and does we clean our windows, but we have a vendor come in every couple of weeks and make sure that the windows are spotless. We've got someone who comes in and cleans our playground to make sure that that is clean and sanitized on a regular basis. So just things like that to make sure that if somehow it were to fall through the cracks, you've got somebody who's going to make sure that it gets done right. Sometimes it's easier to fire a contractor. It can be harder depending on the contract, but sometimes it's easier to keep somebody motivated if they're not on your payroll, if that makes sense. So again, just what can we do to make it easy for our team to focus on the guest and on doing their job well. So to wrap, I'd say dedicated leadership, a clear and regular cadence of communication, and then finally, what technology or vendors exist. We did mention Jolt briefly. I know a lot of people are using that. So what can we do to make it easy for our guys to do their job? So that's all I've got for you. Appreciate the time. Hopefully there's something of value for you.
Operators and restaurant leaders, thank you for joining us for this session of Petro, where we've been focused on cleanliness and organization. And you know this, but just as a reminder, clean and safe environment really is the cornerstone or the foundation of our Winning Hearts Everyday strategy. So it's critical that we stay focused on keeping restaurants clean and organized. I want to start this closing by thanking operators Eric Benting and Justin Lamison, and of course their leaders. They were a huge part of this, and they were really helpful, and thank you to those operators and leaders. And as I think about closing, I want to leave you with just a few things. Cleanliness is such a huge part of the restaurant. There's so many areas that you have to stay focused on, but I want to encourage you to just really, as you think about this and get even more specific as you pursue excellence in this area, really think about it from the customer's lens. So think about areas like your front door, where a customer enters your restaurant when they're dining in or carrying out food. Think about, is there something you can do to spruce up that entry environment? Think about door thresholds. Think about the cleanliness of your foyer, the dusting of it, those kind of things. Look for areas like air return vents that collect a lot of dust that often get overlooked. And that's something I look at a lot. Think about floor drains, both in the kitchen and the dining room all over. Do you have those on a weekly area for cleaning, where you perhaps around your breading area and in the back of the house, and then on a monthly or quarterly basis out in the dining room, especially in this season as we approach where flies and insects and whatnot become an issue. Floor drains are critical in breeding flies and whatnot. So think about those. Think about inventory and how that's organized. I love to see boxes cut open and a lot of organization with your inventory. It helps in many areas, but it's certainly in this area and creates a good environment for your team. Think about a cordless vacuum. It's interesting. I have one of these personally at my home. If you don't have one of these in your home, and perhaps even in your restaurant, maybe one back of the house, front of the house, if you have a place to keep one that's out of the customer view, these things are a life changer. You can vacuum those ceiling vents that I mentioned. You can vacuum foyers and rugs and the booths in your restaurant. There's a lot of things that you can use this, and it is truly a game changer. Don't forget also the outside of your restaurant. Think about where your customers enter your drive-through. Is there an opportunity to spruce up the landscaping there, add a little color? I know there's salt and there's conditions throughout the Midwest that aren't most favorable for color, but seasonal color where you can, and many operators are doing it, are finding ways to do it. They make a difference in the cleanliness and just the overall experience for the customer. But high visible areas throughout the drive-through, and even when you exit, think about a fond farewell for having a nice looking landscaping and really adding some color there. So I know this is a challenge, and it's hard to keep the restaurant clean, but it again is foundational to our Winning Hearts Everyday strategy. And I just want to encourage you in it. Thank you for joining us in this session of Petro, where we continue to pursue excellence together in restaurant operations.